Coming up on The Beat, the Linsanity Continues. The Jeremy Lin phenomenon that has swept the nation. Wilt's 100-point performance. Al Addles talks about being a part of that famous game. And our guys go over their all-time favorite all-star moments. The Beat starts right now.
Hi again, and welcome to The Beat, the show that brings you the stories behind the stories in the NBA from the people who cover the league at the highest level. Vince Cellini, along with the usual suspects, joining us, TNT's David Aldridge from Silver Spring, Maryland, and with us from Sacramento, Scott Howard Cooper. Lang Whitaker, the editor-at-large of Slam Magazine, is going to be along shortly. Gentlemen, let's get right to it, and there really is only one place to begin any NBA talk right now, with 17. Bet it all on 17. Jeremy Lin, and while it's early, Lin may have saved the Knicks season and maybe D'Antoni's place on the bench. Lin on Monday named Eastern Conference Player of the Week, averaging 27 points, 8 assists, and 2 steals during a 4-0 week for the Knicks. Overall, he's led them to 5 straight wins. Lin's 109 points in his first 4 starts are the second most by any player since 76-77. He's the first player in NBA history to put up at least 20 points, 7 assists in each of his first 4 starts. The Lin phenomenon. All right, one more pun. It was Lin conceivable less than 2 weeks ago. But, guys, I want to start with this. D.A., he has brought joy, excitement to a Knicks basketball team that was floundering. That's the word I keep going back to, joy.
Well, you're right, Vince. I mean, look, that team was going nowhere fast. You know, people who loved Carmelo Anthony when they got him were turning on him because, you know, they weren't scoring. They weren't winning, frankly. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They weren't winning games. Now they're winning games, and people like winning, so they like Jeremy Lin. I think Jeremy's story is phenomenal. More power to him. All I'm saying is that it's 5 games. Let's not put him in Springfield just yet. Let's see if he can get half a season in, and then we can kind of make a judgment. Certainly a great start for what seems to be, by all accounts, a very nice young man.
It does have us reaching back to the history books to check on this because it just hasn't happened in so long. But, Scott, your observations on Lin and what you've seen in this incredible week.
Well, it's a remarkable story because it's much more about human interest than it is about basketball. This is somebody who's connected with a group of people that feel like they don't get a lot of support, that they don't feel like there's a lot of athletes that they can point to in the Asian American community. So there's that connection. The fact that it's New York, I think David is right, that a lot of this does get blown out of proportion. But let's look at the basketball perspective. It's pretty amazing. It took him 3 or 4 games to turn most improved player into a runaway. And you just don't see those things very often. It's an amazing run, and he is a great guy. All the credit to him. He's a hard worker. He's got some talent. But again, he has done this mostly against bad teams. He needs to keep this up when they get Carmelo back, and when Amari comes back. Those are going to be the real tests.
Yeah, one of the teams he did it against, Minnesota, and the fans there at one point chanted overrated to Jeremy Lin. I didn't even know he was rated, let alone being overrated. But, David, he's done this without Amari and Melo. So the question is, and Amari needs a point guard, we know that. How will it work with Carmelo coming back? What are your thoughts?
Well, look, Carmelo Anthony played with Chauncey Billups. He's played with good point guards before. It's not like this is a, totally foreign thing to him. He played with Andre Miller. I mean, he's played with good point guards. So, Carmelo Anthony knows what he's doing. I mean, I think that they will move the ball. This will help both Carmelo and Jeremy Lin because it'll take some pressure off of Jeremy to continue to produce 25, 30-point nights. And it will give Carmelo a pressure release when he gets double teamed because teams are doubling off of the Knicks point guards, making them shoot jumpers. Well, they can't do that now if Jeremy Lin's going to keep making those shots. So this will help both players. It will help the Knicks. The only question is, will the ball continue to move to the other guys? That's what's been the revelation to me, is not just that Jeremy Lin has gotten to score, but he's also gotten Tyson Chandler involved. He's gotten Landry Fields involved. He's got Iman Shumpert involved. Will those players continue to get touches when Carmelo and Amari come back? That's my question.
Yeah, that is a great point. And, Scott, do you see this as built for the long haul this season with Jeremy Lin? Have they found their guy?
I think there's a lot to be proven on that. I mean, let's remember the perspective here is this is a guy that was cut by 2 teams within the last several months and couldn't get off the bench for a third team. One of those was his hometown team, the Golden State Warriors. Couldn't get off the bench for the Knicks, a team that was obviously desperate for a point guard. So the fact that we can, it's too early to say that this is in for the long haul. But the good news for the Knicks, and especially the good news for Jeremy Lin as he's under this wave of attention, is he does not need to be this great all the time. Once they get Carmelo back, once they get Amari back, he just needs to be good, and that'll help the Knicks out so much more. They need to keep the ball moving. That's been the big problem with the offense.
You know, so many times desperation spawns these types of moves, and I think for D'Antoni, and DA, correct me if I'm wrong, he got to the point where he was like, why not, and put him in. So has this bought D'Antoni a little bit of time? At least it seems like he's certainly taken off the hot seat for the moment.
Well, again, when you win, you're okay. So
You're good.
You know, they won 5 in a row. So they're right now everything's good. They're not going to keep winning. I mean, eventually they're going to lose a couple of games. So the question is, what happens when Baron Davis is ready to play? How many minutes? I think again, this only helps Jeremy Lin because he doesn't need to play 40 minutes a game right now. I think he's much better playing 20, 25 minutes a game. Let Baron Davis help you. Let Shumpert play a few minutes at point guard. And then, you know, you can get the best out of Jeremy Lin on a nightly basis without him having to carry that burden of having to score and be the assist guy. So this is a good thing for him, and it's a good thing for D'Antoni. But going forward, I'm not sure that long-term, is this the long-term solution? How can anybody make that judgment after 5 games?
How about the rest of the season?
Impossible.
Is it a rest of the season solution? Do you see that? Is it a rest of the season solution quickly?
Well, I think so. I think
Okay.
until he proves he can't start, until he proves he doesn't deserve those minutes, you know, if his numbers tail off dramatically, then maybe you make that judgment. But remember, you'll have Baron Davis back. So the Knicks, who've kind of really been searching at point guard, now have 2 guys that probably going forward for the rest of the season can handle that position.
All right, let's talk about another situation that's certainly up in the air. The future of the Sacramento Kings is uncertain, tied to the possibility of a new arena. An NBA-imposed deadline of March 1st may or may not provide answers. So, DA, you wrote extensively about this in your morning tip, and I know Scott Howard Cooper, it's right in your backyard. You know this, too. David, what is the very latest on this situation?
Well, I think you've crystallized it. Like everybody's waiting to see what Sacramento does, and Scott wrote about this earlier, and he's absolutely right. This is about what Sacramento does. You know, for all the plans that the people in Seattle may have, if the Sacramento people come up with an arena, it's a moot point. The team's going to stay in Sacramento, so they're working on that. They have a meeting on Tuesday where they're going to ask to start speaking to some of these groups that they want to help finance this new arena, and that's going to be a big thing. But it comes down to March 1st. On March 1st, will they have a plan that will pass muster with the league's committee that's looking into this? And that's the question.
Yeah, Scott, read the tea leaves for me right now in Sacramento.
I think there's a good chance that the team stays, and I have felt that for quite some time. It's counter to what most people around the league believe. It's interesting when teams come into town, and when I talk to officials from other teams and reporters from other cities, there's this sense of, okay, so this is the farewell tour for Sacramento, huh? And I don't think that's the case at all. It's going to be close. It's not an automatic by any means. You don't just make $400 million appear out of thin air in this market, in this economy. But there's been such a forward movement since the end of last season when it did look like the team was gone. I have a hard time believing that it doesn't get done. What we know for sure is the league wants the team here, and that's the thing that cannot be emphasized enough. David Stern is working back channels to find a way to make this happen. The Maloofs want the team to stay. They only looked into moving last season because this thing has been going on now for about 10 years, and at some point they just said, we need to have a solution. Either there's an arena or there's not an arena, and we have to look at Anaheim. And I think right now it's Sacramento against Sacramento, not Sacramento against Seattle or Anaheim. This is Sacramento's game to lose. If things don't go right for the city, then it's about Seattle and Anaheim and maybe Vancouver. But right now, it's still about Sacramento. Well,
it is an interesting West Coast subplot we'll be following. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We're going to take a break here on The Beat. Still ahead, a man who saw what so many did not, Wilt's 100-point game back in 1962. Al Attles didn't just witness it, he played alongside the Dipper, and he's here to talk about it next.